Imagine your brain is like a glitchy car alarm. It fires up with the absolute intensity of a saber-toothed tiger attack, just because you have a dreaded Zoom call on the calendar for tomorrow.
Right, the threat response is just totally disproportionate.
Exactly. So, welcome to our deep dive into the source material today. We are unpacking practical daily steps to help you escape that 2 a.m. mental hamster wheel. We want to turn paralyzing worry into, productive concern. But I really have to ask, if our brains are just trying to keep us alive, why does this survival mechanism feel so incredibly exhausting?
Well, it's because you're paying a massive metabolic price for a fight that doesn't actually exist. You're running a biological program designed for immediate physical threats, but you're applying it to, like, speculative fiction.
Okay, but I mean, I know the difference between a tiger and a Zoom call. Why doesn't my brain?
It actually comes down to the fundamental difference between worry and concern. And strangely enough, it's a matter of grammar.
Wait, grammar, what do you mean?
Yeah, grammar. Worry is intransitive. So it doesn't need an object. You can sit alone in a quiet room and just spin, entirely focused inward.
Oh, wow. So you don't need a specific thing to worry about. You just sort of exist in a state of worry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it's an inward loop, your amygdala, the threat center, gets trapped in this closed circuit. It starts mathematically distorting reality.
Which is the spinning in neutral part, right?
Yeah, totally. An anxious brain will literally perceive a 10% risk of a bad outcome as a 70% probability.
That is wild. Okay, so that's worry. What about concern?
So concern is transitive. You have to be concerned about something specific in the real world. That requires fact-based outward focus.
Got it. So you're shifting your attention outside yourself.
Right. And when you do that, you're literally moving the cognitive load from the emotional amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, which is your rational planning center. Dr. Edward Hallowell actually describes worry as concern that has lost its legs.
I like that image a lot. But I have to push back a little here. It's easy to say, just be concerned instead of worried. But when it's 2 a.m. and my chest is tight, simply telling myself to use a transitive verb feels completely impossible.
Yeah, just willing it away never works. You can't just think your way out of it.
Right. And the source material actually brings up these ancient texts like Matthew 6 or Philippians 4, prescribing outward directed actions, things like gratitude or observing nature, thousands of years before brain scans. So how do we actually force that biological shift in the moment today?
Well, you have to force a manual override of that neurological relocation, and you can do that using the HAT framework, which stands for honesty, awareness, and taking action. It forms the backbone of this 5-point pivot to reclaim your brain.
Walk me through that, because I definitely need a manual override when the alarm is going off.
So point one of the pivot is changing the script.
Mm.
Worry loves the phrase "what if" because it invites, infinite chaos.
Oh, yeah. What if I mess up? What if they hate me?
Exactly. Concern, on the other hand, uses "what now" because that demands an actual plan.
It's like manually shifting a car from neutral into drive. What if? Just revs the engine in neutral. Lots of noise, no movement, burning gas. What now actually drops the transmission into gear.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And to get those gears to catch, you move to point 2, which is the H in our HAT framework. Honesty. This means physically writing the worry down.
Wait, really? Just the physical act of scribbling this on a piece of paper actually changes the brain's electrical routing? How does that even work?
Well, because writing requires language processing and fine motor skills.
Right.
So you are literally dragging the problem out of that closed-loop emotional brain.
And forcing it into the rational, sequential processing areas of the prefrontal cortex. That makes a lot of sense. You're forcing the brain to use a different operating system.
Precisely. Then once it's on paper, you move to the A in the framework, awareness. This is point 3 of the pivot. You basically put the thought on trial.
Like interrogating yourself.
Yeah, you ask, is it true and is it helpful? Remember, your brain is doing that broken threat math, right? Turning a 10% risk into a 70% certainty. You have to act like a defense attorney demanding receipts.
And what happens if it fails the test? Like, what if the worry isn't true or helpful?
Then you hit point 4, the T in the framework, which is take action. You physically change your environment. Get outside, decompress, take an actual outward step to break the spiral.
Which ties right back into those ancient outward actions we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Which brings us to the final piece, point 5, bringing people in.
Right, because when we're stuck in neutral, we usually isolate ourselves, don't we?
We do. Chronic worry is essentially a social negativity dump because it's entirely focused inward on how will I survive this, It inadvertently depletes the people around you.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah. Whereas concern looks at a situation and says, here's the reality. How do we move through this together? It invites collaboration instead of isolation.
For anyone listening right now, you obviously cannot control every external circumstance in your life, but you are the architect of your own mental real estate.
Absolutely. Every time you catch that wheel starting to turn, you can choose movement over the loop.
Right, when you consciously swap a what if for what now, you are reclaiming square footage in your own mind.
You are actively renewing your mind. You're choosing to reclaim your legs and walk, rather than just spinning in place.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If your anxious brain mathematically distorts a 10% risk into a 70% certainty, what incredible life opportunities are you currently avoiding just because your biological threat math is temporarily broken?